Hello, friends. Today I am going to tell you the story of the world's most popular movie, Titanic. The Titanic was the largest ship in the world. This ship was such a big and luxurious ship that at that time the rich people wanted to travel on this ship. When the Titanic made its first voyage, its chief captain and its builders said before the voyage that this ship would never sink in the sea, and we can bet that even the creator himself would not be able to sink this ship in the sea. But to challenge the creator, it was only a few hours after the first voyage that the ship collided with a giant monster in the sea, and the ship began to sink in the sea, with 2240 passengers. Among the passengers were two young men who were engaged in illicit relationships all over the ship. If you want to know their curse and what those terrible monsters were, and how the ship sank into the sea, you have to watch the whole story of the movie. Watching this movie, you will be lost in the depths of the ocean many years ago. So let's start without talking too much. Our story today is Titanic. Many years after the sinking of the Titanic, a treasure hunter named Brooke Lovett arrived with a large ship and a team of his crew to the spot where the Titanic had sunk in the sea. They learned that there was a very wealthy man on the ship when the Titanic sank. His wife had a necklace, and the name of the necklace was Heart of the Ocean. The necklace is currently worth $400 million. They had advanced cameras, drones, and robots, with which they searched for the diamond necklace in the wreckage of the Titanic. All these years after the sinking of the Titanic, it was still intact under the sea. And Brooke and his team were much more surprised to see this. They sit on their ship and land all the robots of advanced technology under the sea. They had cameras on their heads. Then they sent them inside the Titanic and watched them on the monitor. There they saw the bodies of human clothes and children. In this way, they entered deeper into the Titanic. And then all of a sudden, they found a locker. They grabbed the robot and pulled the locker out. Then they were very happy to lift the locker with the robot on the ship, because they knew that the expensive diamond necklace called Heart of the Ocean was in this locker. They cut the locker with a machine and try to pull out that diamond necklace from the inside. But Brooke finds nothing but a paper inside of her. This led to the loss of his entire project, because he came here after spending a lot of money. A girl could clearly see the paper that was found. There was a painting paper. It had a sketch of a beautiful girl. And the strangest thing is that this girl is wearing the Heart of the Ocean necklace around her neck. Seeing this sketch, Brooke becomes interested again. He found a signature underneath the girl's sketch, and the date was written on it as April 14th, 1912, which was the day before the sinking of the Titanic. Meanwhile, they were broadcasting the entire treasure hunting event live on TV. On the other hand, we see an old woman named Rose. Rose worked with her grandson in making pottery. He watched the show on TV, hosted by Brooke Lovett, and asked his grandson to turn the TV around. And then he saw the girl's sketch. This time, he gives his grandson a satellite call to Brooke. Rose introduces herself and tells Brooke, "I'm the girl in the picture." Hearing Rose's words, Brooke sent a helicopter to bring the old woman to her ship in the middle of the sea. But when one of Brooke Lovett's colleagues heard that she had been brought in, she told him that the old lady could lie. "It may be that he is lying to get popularity in the limelight, so you're making a mistake in bringing him in." But Brooke Lave doesn't listen to his words. Shortly after, they saw the helicopter arrive. Rose had brought all the household items with her to the house, because she was a very beautiful woman. Brooke and her colleagues were a little surprised to see this. Then, after letting the old woman rest for a while, Brooke came to her room. They show Rose via an animation video how the Titanic crashed into an iceberg and sank. But after watching it, Rose told them that you had shown them a very nice forensic analysis video. But the real experience was completely different, and a number of things were brought in front of Rose. And after seeing them, Rose began to recall her old memories. In fact, these things were things she used herself. Brooke Lovett asked Rose what exactly happened on the day of the sinking of the Titanic, or how it sank. "You can talk to us." Then Rose gets up and starts staring at the wall. And he began to remember his old memories. And then he started telling everyone about the strange story of the sinking of the Titanic. When the Titanic stood in port to make its first voyage 84 years ago today, thousands of people tried to buy tickets to board it. But there were very few of them who were very wealthy, and very few got tickets to the Titanic. Those who were very lucky. There, in a restaurant, a boy named Jack was gambling with his friends. The gambling bet was 2 tickets to the Titanic. Jack and his close friend went on to win the Joey along with the others, so they got those tickets to the Titanic. They were very happy to get the 2 tickets. Jack's home was in America. The Titanic will sail from London to the United States today. On the other hand, we are shown a royal family getting out of the car. This girl's name was Rose, the one we're seeing tell today's story. Rose was only 21 years old at the time. She was a very beautiful and wonderful girl. She was accompanied by her mother and husband Cal, and they boarded the Titanic to go to America. They will go to America and get married. Cal is a very rich man. He was also a close relative of the King of England, so he had a lot of wealth. Being very upper-class people, they naturally called first class and collected tickets for the Titanic. But Jack and his friends had third-class deck tickets. All the poor and all the lower classes of the society boarded the third-class call. The atmosphere here was not very good. But the first-class deck was neat and neatly decorated. Meanwhile, when it is time to leave the ship, thousands of people come to the port to say goodbye to the Titanic, because it was a dream ship. Those who could not get on it started waving goodbye to the ship from a distance. Jack and his friend Fabrizio came to the ship and started saying goodbye to everyone. There was no one they knew here, though. Still, they enjoyed doing it, because they were able to get on this dream ship, and eventually they can go home. In this way, saying goodbye to thousands of people, the dream ship Titanic began to float in the sea. Jack and his friend Fabrizio find their form and lie down comfortably. Shortly after the start of the journey, the ship's chief captain told another captain that the Titanic is a very fast ship. So let's test its speed. Saying this, he instructed everyone to run the Titanic at full speed. Upon receiving the captain's orders, the workers increased all speed. Meanwhile, Jack and his friend come right in front of the Titanic, and the two of them watch as the Titanic moves forward by cutting the water. The people of the world have never seen such a large ship, so the passengers of the ship come out and see how it actually floats in the sea. Jack sees several dolphins below, which were floating before the Titanic. Jack stood there and shouted, "I'm the king of the world!" They were both having a lot of fun there. On the other hand, Cal and his family were having dinner together at first-class call. There were also people from the ship's superiors. When she tried to smoke a cigarette every day, her mother forbade her, and her husband took it from her mouth and destroyed it. Rose was very upset about this, so he got up and called to spend some time alone. Meanwhile, Jack and his friends sat together on the deck of the ship. Jack was painting a picture of a father and daughter who were there. He was very good at painting. It was his only love or hobby. As he was drawing, Jack's eyes suddenly went upstairs to where Rose was standing. Jack looks at Rose and looks at her. But Rose was a little embarrassed to see Jack staring at her. And there's no point in looking at Jack as his friends. She's a first-class deck girl. They are the daughters of wealthy families. But Jack still stares at her. At that time, Rose's husband Cal came and took him away. But he doesn't like it when he comes in. Rather, seeing these arrogant people around him, he ends up wanting to live. Even though they are very wealthy people, everything is bound by the rules. There is no such thing as his own freedom. You always have to keep up with society. Fed up with life, he ran to the deck of the ship. But as he was running, Jack was lying on a bench, looking up at the sky. Then he noticed that someone ran past him. So he got up from the bench and came closer and saw that it was the girl who had been standing up during the day. Jack sees the girl trying to jump out of the ship into the water. Just as Rose was about to jump into the sea, Jack called out from behind. He told Rose not to jump into the water by mistake. Hearing her voice, Rose looked back and said to Jack, "Don't come to me by mistake either. When you get closer, I'll jump into the water sooner." But Jack didn't listen to him and came up to him and said, "I don't have a problem if you jump out of here. But from a humanitarian point of view, I have to jump into the water to save you. But I'm a very good swimmer. Maybe that's why I won't die. But the problem is that the seawater is very cold, so we'd rather die in the cold than drown, and it will hurt us a lot." Jack continued to say these words to Rose. "And take off your shirt, pants, and shoes." But Rose is very scared to hear his words. He didn't know how cold the seawater would be. He wants to die at once. "If you die slowly, it will be very painful." So thinking of this, he came back from his decision to die. Then Jack stretches out his hand to save her, and she turns to him to come back. But just as he was about to cross the railing and climb up, his son-in-law's leg slipped and he almost fell. But Jack grabbed his hand. Then he pulled him up with great difficulty. But while picking it up, Rose fell on Jack. However, hearing his screams, some security guards came there. And when they arrived, they found Jack on Rose's body. Seeing this, they realized that Jack may have been trying to do something bad to Rose. After a while, her husband Cal was called. Jack is arrested for misbehaving with Rosa. But when the police take her away, Rose tells her husband that he didn't treat me badly, but he saved me. "I was standing on the deck of the ship trying to see the profile below. I was almost falling at the time, and at that moment, Jack came and saved me." Hearing these words of Rose, the policeman there started saying that this boy is a hero because he saved the lives of others. That's why Jack was released. Then, when Cal was leaving with Rose, a police officer told him that he would not give the boy anything to save the life of his future book, so Jack went to give Cal some money. Rose told Cal that "You were giving him a little money to save my life." When Cal's secretary, Mr. Lovejoy, stays, Jack asks him for a cigarette. But the man tells Jack that it's very interesting, isn't it? A young girl was falling off the railing of a ship, and you took off your clothes and shoes to save him. Jack doesn't say anything. Then the man left. The next morning, Rose came to Jack to thank him. Jack then asks Rose, "Well, what did you say you wanted to kill yourself? Why did you want to ruin your life despite having such a luxurious lifestyle?" Then Rose starts telling him the annoying things in her life and says she doesn't like the people around her at all, because they are very arrogant and rich. And they are so rich that they are always in the chains of subjugation. Saying this, he showed her the engagement ring in his hand and says my marriage to Cal is fixed. We're going to get married in America, but I don't like him at all. Jack asks her if she loves him. But Rose gets a little annoyed by this question and tells Jack that you can't question my personal life. But for Jack, it was a simple question. So he reacted to this question in such a way that he could not understand anything. Rose then got even more annoyed and got into a bit of an argument with Jack and left. And Jack stands there like an idiot because he still doesn't know what his crime is. Meanwhile, at night, when Rose was in her room, Cal came to her. She put a diamond necklace around her neck. This is the 56-carat pure gold diamond called the Heart of the Ocean. That's what Laved was looking for. In the past, this locket was worn by Queen Louis XIII of Spain. And now I've got it for you, because I love you so much. You just open your mind to me and see how much I love you. Hearing Cal's words, Rose's heart was born with some love for him. But in the morning, when Rose was walking on the ship's roof again, she met Jack. But this time he finds a notebook in Jack's hand. He snatched it from his hand and said, "Let's see what you're pulling." Saying this, he took the book and began to look at it. It was Jack's drawing book. There were so many beautiful pictures there. Seeing this, Rost is fascinated. She asks Jack, "Are you really doing this?" Jack then said, "Yes, I did it. I love to draw. And these are drawings of people from different cities of the world." There was a picture of a girl repeatedly. That's why Rose asks him, "Is this girl your girlfriend? Have you seen pictures of it many times?" But Jack says it's a picture of a prostitute, and I paid him to paint it. Rose was very impressed with her drawing skills and started talking to her openly. Jacko begins to tell Rose all the stories of his life. He's actually a wandering boy. His parents are all dead, so he travels around the world. But now, after a long time, he is going to his home, America. Rose loves to see Jack live such an independent life. because his life was bound by the chains of slavery. He always wanted to roam around like a free bird. In this way, there is a lot of similarity between the two of them. They become friends with each other. Then, when evening came, Rose went to her own room. Jack stood there. At that time, a friend of Roja's mother came to visit there. The woman looked at Jack and said, "Hey, you're not the guy who saved Rose's life. But today we have a party here. What are you going to wear to the party today?" "Why does Jack say that? I'm going to the party wearing the shirt I'm wearing now." Hearing Jack's words, the woman takes him to her room and lets Jack read one of her son's dresses. The woman's son was about the same age as Jack. So this dress fitted very nicely on Jack. And in this dress, he looked like a rich man's son. At night, he called the first-class passengers to join the party. Everything was arranged here. People are all from rich and tidy homes and are surprised to see him from a distance, because he looked like a lot of rich people in this dress. Rose grabs Jack's hand and takes him in front of everyone and starts introducing everyone to him one by one. Then they sat down at the dinner table and started talking. Rose began to teach Jack the rules and regulations of food from afar, because Jack has never attended such a luxurious party before. There, Jack began to tell everyone the story of his life. He says, "I wander from one place to another, from one city to another. Yesterday I slept under a bridge, and today I am chatting with some beautiful people like you by winning 2 tickets to the Titanic in the poker game. My life is like a game." Everyone there was quite impressed by his words. Then they all went to another room to party at the Brand. But Jack doesn't want to go there, because it's time for him to leave. But as he left, he handed a letter to Rose. Rose sees the letter saying, "Do you want to attend a real party? So I'm standing outside at the clock. Come here." After receiving the letter, Rose came out and met Jack. Then Jack called him to the third-class passengers. Everybody was partying here, too. There were all kinds of beautiful musical instruments playing here. Here, people were dancing and dancing without being bound by any rules. Children, young people, old people, teenagers, and even children were enjoying here. There were no restrictions on anyone. It was a lot of fun to watch it every day, because he'd wanted to see that kind of freedom. Jack's friend Fabrizio was dancing with a girl. They were doing what they call true enjoyment there. Jack was dancing with a little girl first, and Rose was sitting in a chair, sipping brandy. But all of a sudden, Jack came up to Rose and said, "Now you're going to dance with me." Saying this, he picked her up, and the two of them started dancing together. Rose was a little scared at first, but later she started dancing very well. But there is only one problem. While they were dancing, Cal's secretary, Lovejoy, came and saw that Rose was dancing with Jack very openly. Seeing this, he quietly leaves and tells Cal everything. When Rose returns to her room after the party, Rose's mother scolds her a lot. When she said, "I was just going to have a little party with Jack," Rose's mother started emotionally blackmailing her. "He says that after your father's death, we are living such a luxurious life only because of Cal. So if you don't marry her, we'll have to sit on the street and beg. Just remember that he's done so much for us, so you have to marry her. And the next time you meet that street boy, remember I'll never talk to you again." Saying this, he left the place. Later, when Rose comes to visit Cal, Cal scolds him a lot. He also tells Rose that you can marry me if you want, but remember that I will never let you go with that street boy. Rose is horrified by Cal's behavior and decides that she will never see Jack again. But while Rose was hanging out with Cal and her mother on the roof of the ship, Jack grabbed Rose from behind and dragged her into a room. But Rose doesn't want to talk to him anymore. He says, "He can't talk to you anymore, Jack, because I'm engaged to Cal. Besides, I love him too, so don't you ever come to see me again." But Jack tries to tell him a lot. Rose walked out of there without listening to him. And ever since then, Jack has been running around to meet them. Once he called the first-class passengers, where Rose's room was. But the security guards wouldn't let him in. Kelly's secretary, Lovejoy, handed him a $20 bill and told him to leave. But Jack doesn't want to take his money. So when the man gave the money to the security guard grabbed Jack's neck and threw him out. Humiliated, Jack stood silently on the railing in front of the ship. And Rose, on the other hand, sat sadly thinking about Jack. Rather, he was undecided about his life. What is the value of living in a life where there is no freedom and always has to live with an arrogant attitude? While thinking about this, at one point he came to Jack and told him, "Hello, Jack, I have changed my mind." He was going to say something more, but Jack stops her and grabs her hand and pulls her forward, and she says to Rose, "If you believe me, then close your eyes and come with me." The line was heard, and then they started kissing each other, and after spending an extraordinary moment there, Jack was brought to her own room by Rose. And it was here that she showed Jack the diamond necklace for the first time. Then she said to Jack, "You're going to paint a picture of me wearing this necklace. There will be no other clothes on my body except this necklace." Saying this, she takes off all her dresses and lays down on a sofa wearing only the necklace. Sitting in front of him, Jack began to draw. And on the other hand, when the old lady Rose was telling this wonderful memory of hers to everyone listened to her story very attentively, and Rose was looking at her belongings and telling stories to everyone. Tears were falling from the eyes of everyone who were there listening to the story. But the story was romantic for so long. But this time, it started in its most painful, thrilling, and terrifying phase at which every moment was filled with human excitement. He writes down the letter and hands the diamond necklace to Jack and asks him to put it in the locker. Then the two of them got out of there. Their intention was that if the ship later stopped at a port, they would both get off there and escape. Then the two of them will get married and live happily together. But as they were fleeing, they fell in front of the secretary at Kelly. Fleeing from there, they went straight to the engine room and ran through it to the storeroom. There was a lot of goods that were being transported from London to America for business. The two of them went a little further and saw that there was a beautiful old model new car in front of them. Seeing this, he both got into the car and Jack sat in the driving seat. Then he started saying, "Hello, where are you going? Miss." But Roger didn't really have any clothes on them. He pulls Jack to himself. And this is where the two meet for the first time and have some exciting moments. Then they got out of the car and tried to go the other way. But the two of them fell in front of Cal's secretary again. The man also went to the fasting room to look for them. But when he didn't get there, he followed them. But Rose and Jack can easily run away from him. Then the two of them came to the roof of the ship and started kissing. Meanwhile, Cal comes to Rose's room and opens the locker and finds Rose's drawing. He also found this letter. And it was written that now you can lock us both in this locker. After reading this, Cal had a great idea. And accordingly, he employs his secretary. It was very cold that night. But even in this cold, two watchmen were standing on the roof of the ship, watching them in front of them. If there is an iceberg in the sea in front of the ship, they should immediately inform the captain. But the two watchmen suddenly looked at themselves and saw that there were two young men and women having a romance. And even in this harsh winter, they feel warm. One wasman was joking with another wasman about this. And they looked at Jack and Rose for a long time. But then, when they suddenly looked at the sea, they saw a huge snow mountain in front of them. They quickly informed the co-captain that the ship should be turned around, because there is a huge mountain of snow right in front of them. Hearing such news from them, the captain was terribly frightened. They immediately shut down all the engines of the ship and started turning the propeller in the opposite direction, so that the speed of the ship is reduced. They also quickly tried to turn the ship to their left. Even if the ship turns a little, the danger cannot be avoided in any way. The Titanic swept forward on the side of the iceberg, and as a result, the lower part of the body immediately broke and the water started entering the engine room. The speed of the water was so high that everything started to sink there. In the engine room, the workers began to dive into the water, and people outside feel a huge shock. But they do not realize how terrible danger is coming to their foreheads after a while. As the Titanic passed by the icy mountains, Giacca Rose stood there and kissed. So this is the first time they realize that the Titanic has collided with a mountain of ice. Since only the water has started to enter the engine room, So from above, they started locking the engine room so that the water can't come up. But there were hundreds of workers working in the engine room. Along with them, they started locking the doors. The workers tried to escape through the door. Some of the workers managed to escape, but most of them were trapped under the water. Meanwhile, the ship's chief captain wakes up and sees all the captains in such a hurry and asks what happened. Then the watchman told him all the facts. And hearing this, the chief captain realizes how big the damage has been done to the Titanic. This chief captain was the one who boasted before sailing with the Titanic that the Titanic would never sink in the sea. Even the creator will not be able to sink this ship in the sea. Najubila. But now his face is completely pale. He doesn't know what to do now. All his arrogance will now be mixed with the water. Meanwhile, the third class called the passengers, but the water has already started rising. And everyone there started to climb higher with their own belongings. And the people on the first class deck above still don't know what's going on with the Titanic. People didn't understand anything and started playing with the ice cubes lying on the roof of the ship. And Jack and Rose start to climb up to warn everyone. As they boarded, they heard from the captains that the Titanic was in terrible danger. So Rose tells Jack we should tell Mom and Cal everything right now. Then they can also be careful. But as they were leaving, the secretary of Cal came in front of them, and he stole into Jack's pocket from behind and stuffed the diamond locket. When the two of them entered the room, Cal told the police that Jack had stolen the locket I had gifted. After hearing this, the police checked Jack's pocket and found the real locket there. Jack can't believe his own eyes. Jack is arrested for stealing and is taken to a place and tied up. On the other hand, the chief captain took out a map of all the ship's engineers and co-captains and tried to understand how much damage the ship had suffered. Then they reviewed everything and found out that the Titanic would be completely submerged in just 2 hours. So they should start rescue operations now. So they quickly started lowering the lifeboats on the ship. And in the meantime, it has spread among the people of the entire ship that the Titanic will sink in the sea in a short time. After hearing this news, people started running around, and beautiful music is played to overcome the nervousness of the people on the ship. Rose's mother and Cal were waiting to get on the lifeboat, but Rose runs away from them to find Jack. Meanwhile, Jack has a terrible danger in front of him. Cal's secretary comes to take revenge on him, and he picks up a pistol and starts beating him. Then he took the key to Jack's handkerchief in his pocket and left. Shortly after he left, water began to enter Jack's room, and the water slowly increased. Jack doesn't understand what he's going to do now, because his hands were tied. Even if he wanted to, he wouldn't be able to escape from here now. He realizes that this is where he has to drown, and his life will end here. But Rose was trying hard to find him. But he didn't know where Jack was actually being tied up, so he kept running around. The lower he went, the more the water rose. Still, instead of running away in fear, she shouted Jack's name and called out loudly. Finally, he finds Jack in a room. Then he searched for the key to open his wristband. But he can't find the key anywhere. As they boarded, they heard from the captains that the Titanic was in terrible danger. So Rose tells Jack we should tell Mom and Cal everything right now. Then they can also be careful. But as they were leaving, the secretary of Cal came in front of them, and he stole into Jack's pocket from behind and stuffed the diamond locket. When the two of them entered the room, Cal told the police that Jack had stolen the locket I had gifted. After hearing this, the police checked Jack's pocket and found the real locket there. Jack can't believe his own eyes. Jack is arrested for stealing and is taken to a place and tied up. On the other hand, the chief captain took out a map of all the ship's engineers and co-captains and tried to understand how much damage the ship had suffered. Then they reviewed everything and found out that the Titanic would be completely submerged in just 2 hours. So they should start rescue operations now. So they quickly started lowering the lifeboats on the ship. And in the meantime, it has spread among the people of the entire ship that the Titanic will sink in the sea in a short time. After hearing this news, people started running around, and beautiful music is played to overcome the nervousness of the people on the ship. Rose's mother and Cal were waiting to get on the lifeboat, but Rose runs away from them to find Jack. Meanwhile, Jack has a terrible danger in front of him. Cal's secretary comes to take revenge on him, and he picks up a pistol and starts beating him. Then he took the key to Jack's handkerchief in his pocket and left. Shortly after he left, water began to enter Jack's room, and the water slowly increased. Jack doesn't understand what he's going to do now, because his hands were tied. Even if he wanted to, he wouldn't be able to escape from here now. He realizes that this is where he has to drown, and his life will end here. But Rose was trying hard to find him. But he didn't know where Jack was actually being tied up, so he kept running around. The lower he went, the more the water rose. Still, instead of running away in fear, she shouted Jack's name and called out loudly. Finally, he finds Jack in a room. Then he searched for the key to open his wristband. But he can't find the key anywhere. But the captain did not answer any of his words and began to move forward. He went to the ship's control room and closed the door. There was water there. He went inside and waited in silence. Then suddenly the ship broke and the water came from around him. This is how all the captain's ego is shattered and he dies there. Meanwhile, the ship began to sink very quickly, but Jack and Rose still couldn't find a board. They tried to climb through all the people to the top of the ship, but that part was completely upright. The two of them tried hard to grasp the ship's railing. This is where they first met. It also reminds Rose Jack. A lot of people were coming down from above. The water in the sea was so cold that people were falling into the water. They were immediately frozen and watching the ship sink from a distance. Rose's mother and others broke half of the ship and drowned in the water, and the other part was still floating, but it was also sinking at one time. Hundreds of people were taking a dip in the water. A man was trying to survive by holding Rose. Rose was sinking down, but at that moment, Jack came and killed the man. Jack lifts Rose over a piece of wood. There was only one place to get up, so Jack picked up Rose and swam in the water himself. All the people out there are trying to swim, but the water in the Atlantic Ocean was so cold that within a few minutes, everyone was frozen like ice. The environment around them is quiet. It was very cold every day. Rose then tells Jack that everyone around Jack is calming down. Jack says you don't have to be afraid. The boat will be here in a few minutes, and we will survive. But Rose was very scared. So Jack told him again that we were lucky. So I got a ticket to the Titanic. And I found you, too. Jack says you give me your word. No matter how bad the situation is, you will never lose courage. Rose made a promise to him. After a while, some sailors came there with boats. A lot of people died there. Seeing this, one of them said, "It's too late for us to come." Hearing them opened Rose's eyes. Rose called Jack. But Jack doesn't respond anymore. Jack gives his life to save Rose. Close your eyes every day. But then he remembered Jack's words. Rose wanted to call them, but there was no sound coming out of her throat. Every day, with great difficulty, he takes the stale of a dead officer. Then he called the sailors. And then they rescued Rose. The next day, the ship came to pick them up. Cal searches for Rose. But Rose covers her face when she sees Cal. And that's how Rose survived, but Jack gave his life. Then the scene is now shown, where Rose ends the story of her life. Rose came out of the ship's cabin. Remembering those old memories, he threw the diamond necklace called Heart of the Ocean in the middle of the sea. He didn't tell anyone that the necklace was still with him. In fact, when Cal took off his coat and handed it to Rose, he had the diamond in his coat pocket. It was only after meeting Jack that Rose found the meaning of her life. So he's traveling the world with Jack's memories. According to Rose Jack, she truly enjoyed every moment of her life. And then came the end of Rose's life. Every day leaves this world and goes to the afterlife. But it was a dream world for Rose, where the Titanic ship and all the people on the ship were the same as before. Just in front of the clock where Jack was still waiting for Rose, Rose gets there. And that's how their unfulfilled love is fulfilled. This is where this wonderful movie ends. Hello friends, I've been with you all this time. So if you want to see the explanation videos of all such great movies, subscribe to our channel now. So stay well, stay healthy.